guys, what's going on? Today we're going to talk about how to get massive forearms, calves, abs. So why do I talk about basically these muscles? Is because I guess these are the muscles that people look at differently than other muscles. You know, we often hear the abs every day. Should I train abs every day? Which is not a question that you will, for example, get for, I don't know, back. Should I train my back every day? You'll never really see this in the questions. But you'll often see, should I train abs every day? Or you could see this more often, like I just described, so like, should I train abs every day? You could see this for forearms, for example, or for calves, because they're considered small muscles or like outsiders, like they're not really considered like the rest, probably because they look like small muscles. I don't think abs are a small muscle, but calves could be considered as kind of like a small muscle, and forearms as well, where you can't really go heavy, so like you can go pretty light, and so you should do it every day because to compensate the heavy that you can't do. But it's not really true. Like you can go very heavy on forearms, you can go very heavy on calves and on abs. It's just the misconception basically that people have, because some muscles are smaller than others. You can't go too heavy. Because you can't go too heavy, they think that you have to go lighter, and because you go lighter it might not be enough, and so you can kind of like do them every day. That's kind of the vibe there is around abs. Like otherwise, why would people ask, should I do abs every day? Like, why don't people say, should I do chest every day? Which is pretty funny because chest isn't even much more of a bigger muscle than abs. Abs is a pretty long muscle and pretty large. And I don't know, people see this differently. And today I want to basically answer the question, how to grow massive forearms, big calves, or big abs. The answer is pretty much the same for any other muscle. If you're someone who goes to the gym but obviously doesn't really have time to train to an extent that you will have time to do your forearms or your calves or your abs, then it means first that it's not a priority for you, because if that was a priority, you would do them when you go to the gym. But for most people, when they go to the gym, they want a better shape overall, and obviously they understand, most of them, that if they do legs, they will somehow kind of develop their calves, when doing squats, even though it's not the best, because you're involving your legs, you will involve your calves a little bit. When you do your biceps or your arms and your back, you will kind of involve your forearms, so they will still grow as a result of doing these muscles, where you use these smaller muscles as well. And abs, you kind of like use them in most of your movements, so obviously it's not optimal. But these three small muscles that we're talking about, you cannot use them when doing the bigger muscles. And so it's understandable that most people who go to the gym to get a better frame overall, and that don't particularly have the time to do these smaller muscles, will depend on the bigger muscles that they do, and hope that it will transfer to the smaller muscle because you involve them when you work out the bigger muscles, basically. And so that's a pretty smart way to go about this if you don't really have the time to work out these smaller muscles. I mean, that's probably what you should do if you generally don't have time and that your focus is more on like the overall frame. But the real question here is how to actually grow them big if you want to. You can't just rely on doing your biceps to grow your forearms, and you can't just rely on doing legs to actually grow your calves, and you can't just rely on doing general movements to grow your abs. The best thing you can do is obviously to have the actual area really stretching as you do the movement. The best movements in bodybuilding are the movements that stretch. We see a lot of movements that are not good because they don't stretch the muscle as you use the weight that you use, which is supposed to improve over time, progressive overload, bigger weights over time on exercises which stretch. If you use exercises which don't stretch, you're not gonna build muscle. And we have a good example, for example, with kickbacks. Kickbacks with no resistance are not great because you don't stretch the muscle. Most of the exercise that you do, you play with gravity, and so there is a stretch, or you play with resistance, which is similar to gravity because gravity is a form of resistance, obviously. And so you can use cables and machines that are made for that, that give you this resistance and give you that stretch, so you can build the muscle. But with exercises like kickbacks, for example, where you don't have the resistance, so you don't do them, for example, with cables, the exercise is not very interesting. It's like the bodybuilder exercise on cables that girls do. They don't really stretch the leg as they go, like this. And so the exercise gives you a pump because, you still use the muscle, but you don't really stretch it. And so it's not really interesting. So the exercise that you want to do, obviously, are exercise which stretch. And over time, you want to improve with the weights that you use. And you want to do the same with these muscles that we're talking about today. The calves, the abs, the forearms. And once you have these good exercises which stretch, so for example, for forearms, it's very simple. Wrist curls or reverse wrist curls could work very well. They stretch the forearms as you do the movement. It's a pretty damn good exercise that I do myself. Then you want to practice it. For calves, it's the same. For example, on the Smith machine, you want to do calf raises. You really stretch the calves. That's a good exercise. And for abs, you could do crunches, for example, but even on the cable as well, you can really stretch the abs as you go up and then you go down and flex the abs. It's a good exercise as well, where you can really scale the weight because, you do it with weight that is on the cable. So you have pretty much, infinite weight where you can improve and grow your abs thick. You don't just want to. With the abs, it's something that happens often, and that happens with the small muscles because you think you can't really go heavy. Then you don't really go heavy and you kind of like stay at the same weight all the time and you actually don't improve, If you actually want to have bigger abs, you have to improve just like other muscles on the weight load that you use. And this is something that we unfortunately rarely see because people either don't understand that you have to improve with the weights that you use, even on these small muscles, or they just don't know the exercises that are good for that, that you can use to actually scale up the weight and progressive overload these exercises, basically. So once you have a good exercise, that you have an exercise which stretches and that allow you to improve basically with the weight load over time, the other thing that you need to do is to spend time, obviously, on these muscles. So forearms, calves, and abs are usually treated at the end of the session, which they can be, but usually they're treated like you do them at the end of the session, and most people will literally do 2 sets on them, and it's not enough. You can actually have massive forearms, guys, if you spend, just as much time as you do for another muscle that you actually spend time on. If you spend, 2 hours a week doing your forearms, you're gonna really grow your forearms, guys. And it's the same, for calves. If your insertions as well, if the muscle is not too short, because some people are just unlucky in the genetic lottery, but if you have a decent, muscle length, you will grow your calves, and you just have to do 1 hour of calves, just like you would do 1 hour of shoulders or whatever. That's what you gotta do. It's just that it's so unpopular and so not talked about that people don't think they should even take the time to do this. But that's the truth. If you want big forearms, instead of doing 2 sets at the end of like whatever your bicep session, then you have to do 10 sets, just like a real, like other muscle that you work out to want to see it grow and increase the weight that you use on it. And it's the same for the abs, you know. You don't have to train it every day because it's just the same principle as the other muscle. You want to train it very seriously, hard, and then you can give it, you know, a 2 days rest until you do it again, or 3 days rest. You don't need to do it every day because it's gonna go against the recovery of your muscle. You know, doing abs every day is not very intelligent unless you're very advanced and you benefit from high reps on like rest days, which is something I'll talk about in another video. You don't have the point of doing abs every day, neither calves, neither forearms. You just want to do them, you know, for example, if this is one of your priority, to do it twice a week. Very hard, like you go heavy, you know, you can do 6-8 reps on forearms if you want. Once you really know how to recruit your forearms. And then go for, you know, a bit more reps at the end of the session, of your forearm session, for example, and same for calves. And yeah, that's what you gotta do. Find good exercises with stretches, exercises where you can increase the weight over time and spend more time, more sets on these muscles and treat them like you would do your back. You know, maybe not as much, but you have to still care about them a lot. That's the answer to, you know, how to grow your forearms, your calves, or your abs. Treat them like other muscles, give them more attention if they're a priority, and you unfortunately can't rely magically on doing them, you know, for 2 or 3 sets at the end of the session and hope that you will grow these muscles. It will be better, obviously, on a period over time of like 3 years if you even only do that, you know, your calves, for example, 2-3 sets at the end of your leg sessions. Over 3 years, you will build some, you know, calves, and it'll be much better than not doing it. But if you really want, I don't know, because you like big calves or like good forearms, if you really want to build these muscles, you gotta go more sets, go heavy, improve, just like you would do on other muscles, and this is how it works. So I hope I could break the stereotypes, basically, for these muscles, that you understand that it's no different than the other muscle. And if you want these small muscles to be big, you have to hammer them. You have to hammer them like crazy, you know? You want to work them out, seriously. So that was it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did so, feel free to, you know, leave a like, share the video. Any questions that you have, go for it. I'm all happy to take my phone and answer these questions that you might have, and, you know, publish the video, you know, straight away. So that was it, guys. I will see you next time. Take care of yourself.